All right, so today we're diving into some seriously cool stuff. SpaceX, Starship, reusable rockets, the whole shebang.
Yeah, you could say SpaceX really shook things up this week.
No kidding. I mean, giant robotic arms plucking a booster out of the sky. It sounds like something straight out of a movie. When I sent you those articles, were you as floored as I was?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely one for the history books.
Yeah.
Sunday, October 16th, 2024, Boca Chica, SpaceX launched their Starship system.
That's the Super Heavy booster and Starship spacecraft all together, right?
Exactly. Fifth high-altitude test flight. And they managed to snag that massive Super Heavy booster right out of the air after it released the Starship.
Hold on, this wasn't one of those scaled-down prototypes, right? This was the full-size Starship.
Oh, yeah, the real deal. All 400 feet of it.
400 feet? That's got to be, what, taller than the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, yeah. It's designed to eventually get us to the moon, Mars, beyond even.
It's hard to wrap your head around something that big, you know. But this test flight, this catch, it's a pretty big deal for reusable rockets, wouldn't you say?
Huge. This is what Elon Musk has been working towards for years. Imagine rockets being like airplanes, making return trips instead of being tossed out after each launch.
Like, can you imagine if they just chucked airplanes away after every single flight? Air travel would be ridiculously expensive.
Exactly. And that's basically what we've been doing with rockets forever. And it's a huge part of why space travel has been so crazy expensive. But SpaceX wants to change all of that.
So cheaper space travel. All right, I get it. But how does this actually affect, people like me? Will this change things here on Earth?
No, it definitely has the potential to. I mean, cheaper and more frequent access to space. That opens up all kinds of possibilities. For starters, think about scientific research.
More telescopes, more of those cool robots driving around on other planets.
Exactly. And with that comes new discoveries, new tech. Even stuff that could benefit us right here on Earth. Like, remember all that cool stuff NASA came up with?
You mean like what, memory foam mattresses and scratch-proof glasses?
Exactly. That all came from space exploration. And with these reusable rockets like Starship, we could see those kinds of breakthroughs happening way more often.
It's amazing how solving problems in space leads to inventions that help us out here too.
Yeah, and it's not just about science either. SpaceX wants to put humans on the moon permanently, go to Mars, maybe even make us a multi-planet species.
It sounds like something out of Star Trek, But after this latest test flight, it's getting harder and harder to think of it as science fiction.
Right. Speaking of which, can we talk about those robotic arms for a second? The Chopsticks. That whole system is incredible, and it's all thanks to that Mechazilla launch tower, right?
Mechazilla. They really need to work on that name. But yeah, it sounds like it's a pretty important piece of the puzzle.
Totally. See, most rockets land on drone ships or landing pads, but Mechazilla actually catches the booster right out of the air as it's coming down.
So it doesn't even have to use fuel for that last part of the landing. That's pretty smart.
Exactly. Saves fuel, and more importantly, it means they can launch Starships way more often. SpaceX thinks they might be able to get a launch off every 30 minutes with this thing.
Every 30 minutes, you're kidding. That's insane. It'd be like catching the bus to space or something.
It's a wild idea. But this isn't just some small step, This could totally change how we think about space travel.
So SpaceX has big plans and they're making serious progress. But what about right now? Are there any projects in the works that could use this technology? What are they actually planning to do with Starship?
Well, they've already got one major customer lined up, NASA.
NASA. Are we talking about sending astronauts up to the International Space Station in a Starship?
Not quite the ISS. Starship could get there, sure, but they're aiming a little higher. Think moon. Think Mars.
Now we're talking. Didn't SpaceX get picked for that Artemis program? NASA's big plan to get back on the moon.
Bingo. NASA gave SpaceX a pretty huge contract to make a special version of Starship, specifically for landing astronauts on the moon. That's a huge part of the Artemis project. It's not just about visiting the moon this time, it's about actually staying there.
So Starship will be like a lunar taxi service, taking astronauts back and forth from lunar orbit to the moon's surface. That's pretty wild. When can we expect to see this happening?
NASA wants to put boots on the moon by the late 2020s. But you know how it goes with projects this big? Delays happen. Even if it takes a bit longer, though, it's still way ahead of where we thought we'd be just a little while ago.
And once they've got this whole moon landing thing down, is Mars next?
Isn't that the ultimate goal? Elon Musk has been very upfront about wanting to make humanity a multi-planetary species. He sees Mars as our first off-world colony. And from what I've seen, SpaceX is serious about this. They're pouring tons of resources into making it happen.
So for our listeners who've been following along on this SpaceX journey, what's the main thing to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing is that we're at the very beginning of a completely new era of space exploration. What SpaceX is doing with Starship, this whole reusable rocket thing, it's a total game changer. It's about making space something anyone can reach, something that doesn't cost a fortune, and ultimately, something that we can do without harming our planet. Which opens up, well, you could say it opens up an entire universe of possibilities.
An entire universe of possibilities. I like the sound of that. And you know what? That brings up one last thought for everyone listening. We've been talking a lot about space travel, but what about using all of this back here on Earth? Could we use this incredible tech, this rapid reusability, and other industries? Could it help us solve some of the big problems we're facing down here, like climate change? Now that's something worth thinking about.